It is the owner and general manager of your 4-1 Dallas Cowboys. It is Jerry Jones. Good morning, sir.
Hey, guys. Kevin, Corey, Mike, good to be on with you.
Happy birthday,
Great
Jerry.
to be on with you.
Yesterday, man.
Yeah. Well, we're really glad to have you on. How did you celebrate your birthday yesterday, or is there any time to celebrate because you got a plan for Philly week?
Well, no, I got to, with a well-organized, got to have a great celebration. I have, counting my grandchildren, I have 16 children or grandchildren, and along with Jean, and I had all but one with me last night.
Wow.
And we were at her home, and gosh, did we have a big time. We had the guy that wrote Don't Let the Old Man In. He sang for us with a special way to set that up. And then we had Jason D. Williams over here, and Jason D's, the spitting image of Jerry Lee Lewis, and does all of his songs, and we just had a great time, but it was just with my immediate bunch, and really had a big time.
Did y'all knock out all those Miller Lights, or those go in the fridge, or how does that roll?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. That probably represents at least as many Miller Lights as I drink each month. On that field. Kidding, but still, boy, what a great partner. What a great partner. They're the only beer that we've ever had associated with the Dallas Cowboys. And when we first got here, you couldn't serve beer at the stadium, and you had to bring it in coolers. And I'll never forget, I came over to look at buying the team, and the owner had Roger Staubach sit with me. And I looked out there, and in the stands, there were about 20,000 people to start with. Bill Parcells was coaching the Giants. Coach Landry was coaching the Dallas Cowboys. And about the third quarter, it was drizzly, rainy. About the third quarter, I went down and sat in the stands. And it was rainy, Cowboys getting beat, and all around were beer cans and things like that because you brought it in and it was in a cooler. And I just sat out in it, and I said, now I want to see if I can stand this. How would I like to have just put on the line and gave up everything I got to sit out here in this atmosphere? Can I handle it? And, boy, I looked around and I said, man, to get to be in the NFL, the Cowboys, I can handle this. Let's go.
Love that story right there. Now we're all flying high on the 4-game win streak. Not a good time for distractions or anything, but I do have to ask you, the ESPN.com story yesterday with unnamed sources saying that Daniel Snyder had badmouthed you, saying that you can't trust Jerry Jones, and that you had supposedly told people you can't protect Daniel Snyder that much longer. I was hoping you could give us some insight into any of that.
Well, I don't have that background at all, and so I don't have anything to say about it other than I don't know where people got the supposed resource from me. I can only speak to that. I can't speak to anything else that was said there. I've got a long relationship with Dan. It's certainly a competitive one on the field, and one that is a part of the NFL, and that had anything in that was news to me. And I don't have those kinds of problems, but if they want to put some kind of, anybody wants to put something in my car or wants to listen to something on the phone, get in line, because I'm sure there's a lot of it out there.
I was curious, as one of the leading voices in the NFL, ownership or not, it seemed interesting to a lot of people yesterday that on the Thursday Night Football game, Al Michaels said that he thinks the league wants Dan Snyder to sell the Commanders. Have you ever heard any buzz like that, or do you get that sense from the rest of the owners in the league?
I do not. And that's all I've got to say about it, but I do not.
Jerry, you said you're competitive on the field. I know you've got to feel that way with a lot of different owners too. Is there competition in business off of the field too with you guys, with all the owners?
But not as much at all.
Okay.
Owners are not natural allies. They just are not, because of the competitive aspect of and what it means to individual owners to compete and represent those various NFL teams. So it's not a natural partnership at all. And but that still doesn't mean you don't have a lot of respect, and I do for owners. I know them to be have high integrity, and I would represent that throughout the NFL as to my opinion of the other owners.
When we're talking about the other owners in the league, I was kind of curious, and then I swear we have lots of Cowboys questions
You
too.
ask who his best friend is?
No.
Oh.
I was curious if you can give us any insight into your thoughts about the owners' vote that's supposedly going to take place Tuesday about the Stan Kroenke lawsuit settlement and who should pay that bill.
Well, Stan is one of the great owners in the NFL. And I underline great. His commitment in Los Angeles and to the Rams I don't know that I can point to anybody that's been equal to that of their contribution to the welfare of the league. And so that's recognized by all owners of what he has contributed. And that stadium and the commitment that had to go with it was so surreal, really. And we're lucky to have him. When he got the opportunity to move that team to Los Angeles, I was sitting with Stephen, and I said, do you see anything that you learn about this procedure, or what we did involve for him to be the one to move to Los Angeles? And he said, well, I gave this, and I said, no, what you need to do is when you are supporting somebody, and we really supported his move to Los Angeles, I said, when you make a choice of who you're supporting, make sure you're riding Secretariat.
Okay.
And that's exactly what Stan is and has been for the league. And, of course, what he's produced out there is such a great, if you will, credit to sports as well as the NFL.
It looks like Dak has made a lot of progress this week. Do you expect him to be your starter next week against the Lions?
Well, I don't want to say, but he has made a lot of progress. And throwing the ball with zip, and those are all very, very, very important. And his actual physical mending or rehab or how he's healing is just great. And so all systems on go there. But we'll see how it works out as far as when he's on the field.
You know, Jerry, I was thinking about this, and I know throwing the ball is one thing. I was wondering about taking the snap from the center, because that has to be something that the thumb has to get used to too, right?
Absolutely. And, you know, we wanted Dak. We didn't want to put him on IR because our fans need to understand if he were on IR, he wouldn't be out on the field right now. You can't put anybody if he had been within that time frame. So he couldn't have been getting all of this work that he's been getting really the last 2 or 3 weeks with the direct coaching, move around, in the meetings, all of those kinds of things. He couldn't have been doing all of that. So it was probably a perception that you were going to leave him off of IR so that he could be ready to play in the 4th game. No, you left him off IR principally because you wanted him to be getting ready every place else, mentally, physically, during the weeks before the 4th game or the 5th game. So it's worked. It's worked well. We did the right thing.
Are you eager to get him back out there to see what this offense can really do, or do you look at this offense and say, no, there are other things that we were looking forward to with it?
Well, I think it's all of that. Anytime you have a great player, you miss him when he's not on the field. That's trite almost to even say that. But I think when you say looking forward, what has happened is we have had all of our other players and team and coaches and everybody has stepped it up a notch. You've compensated for not having that Dak. And then, of course, Rush has just been lights out. I can say that from my perspective, too. And as Dak told me last week, I said, boy, I was really concerned when you first got injured about going forward these next games. And he said, well, you should have talked to me more because he said, Cooper's a hell of a quarterback. And we were in good hands. And so that's Dak, who's in the room with him every day. We got to all be involved, be a part of that as fans, as everybody. And no question, we're a better team for it.
You mentioned the everybody stepping up part of it, and I listen to Mike McCarthy every Friday with Sean and RJ. They do a great job with that interview with him, and his personality is great. But he said a couple things this morning that I was like, oh, man, I hear the team saying that. Are you starting to see that they're taking on the football personality of what Mike McCarthy is?
Well, I will tell you, I've always Mike looks like a coach. He feels like a coach. He talks like a coach. He lives coaching. And if you're taking on football mentality or body language or vernacular, you're gonna take on some of Mike McCarthy. That's what he is. And boy, he's done such an outstanding job this year. And really, Mike's done an outstanding job. He's certainly in the eye of the tiger, but I think Mike has done an outstanding job since he's been the coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
Would you say like the Jimmy Johnson teams and the Parcells teams, that those teams also kind of like took on the personality of the coach at that time?
Well, if you want to say that, I don't know that I compare the personalities of Michael Irvin with Jimmy Johnson, but you can if you want to.
Now, we're going into the game against Philadelphia, which is huge in terms of standings for the NFC East, for the NFL in general, but also for the fan base. Over the years, it seems like people have more and more turned their sports hatred towards Philly above all other rivals. Do you get the sense that the Eagles are currently the most hated Cowboys rival, and who's your most hated Cowboys rival?
Well, I think it's hard to separate today from years past because they are undefeated, and so they've got to be in our zero red dots in the circle. They've got to be the biggest one today. However, that New York Giants are playing well. This was a physical game that we played out here against the Washington team, but I would say Philadelphia because of how they're competing, the fact they've they won their first Super Bowl here 2 or 3 years back. I'd say all of that probably makes them a front out here as far as wanting to beat them.
Well,
with our fans.
Yeah, and that's the thing, Jerry. We hear stories about the Cowboys bus getting egged as they're going in, and they'll show their butts and everything. The way the Philly fans are and all that. When you walk out onto these fields with these opposing stadiums, when you walk out there, I know you hear boos, I know you hear cheers. What do you hear though when they're booing? Do you hear the boos, or are you like, no, that's just as long as they're doing something, I'm something.
Well, if it's before the game, then I hear everything. During the game, I tune all that out. And no matter where I am as far as proximity to the fans, opposing fans. But all you got to do is flip your mental switch and you can hear every word and every voice inflection there is. And so all this stuff, it's according to, you can hear it. All you got to do is mentally listen to it. A lot of people ask me, do I hear fans that you have involved at times or other people have involved? Well, if I'm tuned in, I'm sure hear them and have for the last 33 years. So I don't separate it. It's motivational. It's disappointing. I flare when I hear the negatives. All of it is there. It's high, low. It makes you want to go.
Talking with Jerry Jones right here on 105 through the Fan. I know there's still a lot of the season to go, but last week, Cowboys 5.5-point underdogs. This week, 6.5-point underdogs. Do you think a win over the Eagles makes the Cowboys a Super Bowl contender? Do you think they already are a Super Bowl contender, or is it just the return of Dak that would cinch that up?
Listen, I'm going to come up with an original reply to that.
Okay.
We ain't underdogs to nobody.
I did love that from Mike
Thank
McCarthy.
You, Mike McCarthy.
Yeah.
That's kind of that personality. I heard Micah say that too, and so that's why I was wondering about that. I heard Mike this morning talking about with Sean and RJ talking about the top 10 offenses. He said he'd rather be a top 10 offense than a top 10 defense, and it made a lot of sense to me. But I was kind of curious on your thought. I know you want to be top 10, in both, but if you had your options, what would you want? Top 10 offense or defense?
Well, if we can, running the ball and ultimately ending up with a modest, let's say, passing percentage, or not percentage, but passing yardage, run the ball, and have the top or one of the top two defenses. I'm thinking about turnovers, the security involved with being able to run the ball and not rely on the passing. You give me a good running game, possession, give me a good field position, kick the ball, and then a strong defense. You're hard to beat. Now, you've got to get it going to get enough points up there to win it, but, boy, you're hard to beat. I'm not so sure that at the end of the day that is not the best way to get to the Super Bowl.
Outstanding information, and obviously we're hoping that direction is where this team is going, and a win over Philly would definitely help keep things going. Thank you very much, good sir, for the time.
Hey, man, it's been good to be on with you. On to Philadelphia.